And hello once more, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to episode 46 of A Druid's Dozen. My name's John. Some people refer to me as the Rock Druid. Bit of a radio DJ. Got a couple of shows. There's the BCFM Sunday Rock Show on 93.2 FM in Bristol in the UK. And then there's the Rock Druid on astroradio.earth, internet station that deals with astronomy and music. And yeah, this is basically me getting some albums out of my record collection, which is all over the flat, and dragging out some albums, waving in front of the camera, chatting about them for a bit, and yeah, just kind of sharing my enthusiasm in music. So without further ado, I shall don the specs. Specs donned, and I shall go for the first one. First up, we got a bit of obscure UK thrash. There's the front. This is Kilt by Death by the fantastic Drunken State. There's the front. There's the back. And I don't think I've got anything in the middle here. No. Heavy Metal Records. Yeah, 1990 this was. Right. Drunken State, Scottish band. Can't remember exactly where in Scotland they were from, so, and I know sort of like Glaswegians and Edinburghians can get a bit annoyed if I start kind of accusing someone of coming from the wrong city, and the Lord knows what the people in Aberdeen are like. But so I'll just turn around and say generic Scottish for this lot. Don't know a vast amount about them. There's not a vast amount of information on the net. All I know is that this lot were formed late 1980s, take their inspiration from, you know, bands like Slayer, Toranaga and those kind of bands. Released this album 1980, which is a rather cool one, which I'll come to in a minute, and then disappeared off the face of the earth. Don't know whatever happened to them. Yeah, this is a bit of a kind of sort of like a second wave of British thrash album, you know. Sort of the first wave was your Onslaughts and your Acid Rains. This would have been, you know, your second lot came through with your Toranagas, and you know, maybe what the English Dogs were doing when they went a bit metal after they, you know, late 80s, early 90s. Pretty good album. It's not brilliant. It's a bit rough around the edges. Notable for artwork by Simon Beasley, who was, if those of you that know your graphic novels and your comics, he's done a lot of work with like Batman novels, and did a lot of the artwork for a lot of the Judge Dredd graphics novels and the 2000 AD comics, etc. Love the album cover, absolutely brilliant. But anyway, the music itself's not bad. It's kind of thrash, yes, out and out thrash metal. Got a bit of a punk approach to it, or maybe that's just the kind of rough production. Production on this is pretty good. It's got that kind of rough grittiness to it. Who is the producer? This is Uncle Bastard, whoever he happens to be. But their bastard uncle's done a pretty good job of getting a good sound for this lot. Highlights to watch. Time to Stop, Eric, Let Me Go. All pretty good stuff. It's quite intense. It's sums up, you know, there was a lot of bands around doing this kind of thing. Well, one album, Fly By Night Merchants, but you know, every band leaves behind a legacy, and you know, if the legacy you've left behind is as good as Kilt by Death by Drunken State, then I think, you know, you can look back at yourself and think, yeah, I achieved something minor. yeah, overall pretty good. I haven't seen a copy of this for many years, so I know it's a bit of a collector's item these days, so you may have to do a bit of hunting, and I don't think it's ever had a CD release, although there are some vinyl rips available on various sort of like old music sharing sites on the net, so yeah, you might be able to get your hands on a copy. Yeah, so our first one for 1990, Kilt by Death by Drunken State. Okay, next up we can have a bit more kind of UK thrashy stuff, heavy stuff. Pull that out. There's the front. This is Touched with Fire by Comeg. There's the front. 2010 this one was. There's the back. If I open this up, there's the disc. And there's not much, nothing on here. It's a gatefold sleeve there. Just a fold out piece of card. There's the album credits. And there's a kind of little introductory letter from the band. Yeah. Now, Comeg were formed by students at Exeter University in the UK. Exeter, fine old town, has a university. One with a fairly good reputation. Sandy Toksvig went there apparently. And these guys, originally from so Birmingham, Liverpool and Exeter, met in Exeter back in the early 2000s. Started off in the basement of a student digs with a sort of like basic 4-track Porter studio doing a demo. Self-released a string of albums, of which this is actually the 7th. Although, to my shame, this is the only one of theirs I've got. I have heard a couple of the others, but this is the only one that's in my collection. And yeah, they're kind of an alternative metal band, it's a good way of putting it. They got kind of alternative rock sensibilities, but they're kin heavy as well. Yeah, so the 3-piece, you've got Comeg Savage on vocals and guitar, Casey Ryback on bass, and Ashley Lawrence on drums. Yeah, overall pretty good stuff. There's some cracking tracks on here. My favourite one's a song called Big Metal Chicken. References to an old British kids TV series called The Clangers. There's Please Save My Rock and Roll. Sounds like a metalised, which comes over as like a sort of like heavier version of the Black River Motorcycle Club. There's Fade Away, Crazy Shaker, Empty Chair, The Sound of Fear. All tracks on here are they're okay. They're not brilliant, they're not wonderful. They're not kind of earth-stopping, that's what I'm trying to say, but they're competent and entertaining. Saw Comeg live, which was around about the time this came out, and yeah, they kind of played at the Griffin in Bristol, and they were okay. They were very entertaining, and put on a good live show. What happened to them after this album, I don't know. You know, because this is the last time I ever heard of Comeg, and I'm not sure if there's anything that came after this album. Shame, because they were a band that had a bit of potential. But anyway, if you're interested, they're an interesting band. It's kind of one of those big bands that's interesting to kind of track their stuff down and check out. Yeah, this is 2010's Touch Me Fire by Comeg. Pretty good. Next up, bit more older metal, hard rock, whatever you want to call it. Headhunter by Crocus. There's the front. There's the back. Whip this out. Just some lyrics, not lyrics, album info there. And then flip this round. Yeah. If you don't know, Crocus, Swiss band, probably one of the better known kind of Swiss heavy rockers. Very much kind of sounding like sort of like Bon Scott era AC/DC. Thanks, of course, to the wonderful vocals of Mark Storace, who was vocally with Bon Scott's twin brother. He sounds very much like Bon Scott, and the fact that there's a bit of an AC/DC influence on Crocus made Crocus were unfairly dismissed as AC/DC copyists. I think that's more coincidence than design, and Crocus, if you actually listen to their stuff, pretty damn good. This album features uncredited, well, not uncredited, but a little bit of backing vocals from Rob Alford from Judas Priest, as well as a couple of other, who's the other guest on here? Jimmy Jameson of Cobra. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, and this is a pretty competent album. They did a string of quite good albums, did Crocus, throughout the early 80s. And this is just one of them. This one's from 1983. And highlights on this one probably include Headhunter and Eat the Rich. Eat the Rich probably being my favourite cut on the album, but it's all pretty damn good. Other highlights include White Din, Russian Winter, and Nightwolf. Although, as I said, all the tracks on here are pretty good. It boogies, it headbangs, it's 80s heavy rock. It's just a really kind of typical of that era and quite enjoyable. Not quite so sure of the album cover. Looks a bit cliched. Kind of skull and crossbones, but there again, heavy metal is one of the genres where you can get away with a bit of cliche and get away with it. And like I said, Crocus were never really a band renowned for their album cover artwork, so I can overlook that one. Yeah, overall, Tom Allen production, which is Judas Priest's regular producer, so maybe that's how come the Halford link comes in. But overall, it's a Crocus album. If you haven't listened to Crocus, check out some of their 80s albums. This one Vice at a Time, Metal Rendezvous. They're all pretty good albums. And if you like your 80s, so if you like bands like AC/DC, Rose Tattoo, etc., Screaming Jets, a bit of Crocus will not go amiss in your ears. Yeah, one to check out. Okay, next up we got a brand new release. This album I only received a couple of days ago. I'll show you properly, but it's 2020 Vision by Cliff Moore. There's the front. I'll pop it out the sleeve so you can have a better look in a minute. There's the back. Pop this open. There is the disc. Oh dear, I can't lose them. slide this out. There's a better view of the cover. That's the back of the gatefold. And then there's lyrics. Oops, my little light's just fallen. Then there's lyrics there. Also came with this is a bit of a press release, which I'll show you in a minute. And also these. Couple of Cliffmore 1mm branded plectrums. Now, I'm not going to use these because one, these are Cliffmore plectrums. Oh, no, you go, who else Cliffmore? I'll tell you in a minute. And also at 1mm Tortex, they're not my stuff. I like Jim Dunlop 0.88 nylons. That's, you know, and like any guitarist will tell you, once you get used to your favourite pick, you know, and I've been playing with Jim Dunlops now for Jim Dunlop 8/8s for more years than I care to remember, and you know, I just can't get on with anything else. Just personal choice. I find them kind of useful for, you know, they're stiff enough to kind of lean into it, but they're flexible enough to be able to do a little bit of fast widdly stuff with. Not that I'm particularly good at fast widdly stuff, but I try. Anyway, and here we've got the basic info sheet, sign at the bottom. Yes, the album came out a couple of weeks ago. I said I was waiting for my copy to arrive. Now, if you don't know, Cliffmore, he's got a rather more famous guitar playing brother called Gary, or had, unfortunately, because Gary Moore's now at the Great Gig in the Sky. Basically, Cliffmore, Gary Moore's younger brother, born in Belfast, and inspired by his older brother's kind of early musical dabblings, wanted to become a musician, got a drum kit, and basically he kind of at the age of about 5 or 6 then realised that, then someone told him that Keith Moon smashed up his drum kit and made him a good drummer, and unfortunately he did the same, much to the kind of annoyance of his parents. Switched to guitar aged about 8 or 9, and around about this time his family moved to Britain, and he settled in Bristol, and inspired by older brother he switched to guitar, and just like his older brother, he's a damn fine guitarist. If anything, and this is no degradation to Gary Moore, when it comes to doing bluesy stuff, those of you that listen to this vlog in the past will know that I can be a bit down on Gary Moore as a blues player. As a metal guitarist and as a folk rock guitarist, Gary Moore has few peers. He is brilliant. He's just a little bit too heavy-handed and not got the subtlety to play blues. Cliff Moore, and in the Moore family, if you want to know where the blues went, Cliff got them. As a blues player, Cliff Moore is excellent. He can make his guitar cry. We're talking Kenny Wayne Shepherd levels of white boy blues here. The guy's a bit of a genius. This is his latest album. He's done quite a few over the years. On this one he's working with people like Neil Murray, the old Whitesnake bassist, and a few other people. Written and recorded with various people over distance during lockdown, and what comes together is a lovely piece of music. This is wonderful. From the quite heavy and sort of like intense opener of Welcome to My Madness, through to the kind of spine tingling sort of like basic. It's not full instrumental, it's mainly instrumental. There are some lyrics on it, but Cut of the Perfect World, which got a bit, yeah, where old Cliff Moore's guitar in sort of reminiscent of people like Santana. is absolutely, this album absolutely just rocks. Highlights include the instrumental Crank, Love Hate, Hollywood, In the Machine, Call My Name. Every track on here is a bit of a winner. I haven't seen Cliff Moore live for a few years now, but you know, the guy does turn up quite regularly on the UK gig circuit, especially in the southwest. And you know, if you do get a chance to go see the Cliff Moore band, please do. If you do get a chance to track down either this or one of his other albums, he's got about 5 or 6 out over the years, do so. If you're a guitar, especially if you're a guitar aficionado, Cliff Moore is God. Well, he's a guitar god, put it that way. Yeah, really good stuff. I'm only sort of like just beginning to dabble my toes in this album. I've given it a couple of listens through. Yeah, and the more I play it, the more I want to hear it again. I'm going to be featuring this on the both my radio shows over the next few weeks. So if you want to hear some, you know, check in. Yeah, give them a Google by all means, because there are samples of this album out online already. Or check out my radio shows where I'll be exploring this album in depth over the next few weeks, months, well, over the next months. So yeah, 2020 Vision by Cliff Moore, very, very highly recommended. Okay, next up, a bit more metal. Here we go, Heading for Tomorrow by Cory Hansen's Gamma Ray. There's the outer sleeve. There's strangely packaged, this one, at the back of which is just plain grey. You pull it out, you've got a main sleeve there, Cory Hansen and someone staring listfully into the sky wearing sunglasses. And there's the back of this sleeve with the track listing on. And then you whip this out yet again. You've got, you know, lyrics, band picks, a lot. Now, Cory Hansen, why I don't know why the, you know, kind of is it Noise Records? Yeah, Noise Records splashed out on such a complicated thing. I'll hold this sleeve up here and I'll kind of do that then while I chat. Yeah, Cory Hansen used to be well, a guitarist and vocalist with the fantastic Halloween. When kind of, I can't think of the guy's name, but the bloke that took over as Halloween vocalist, he carried on as one of the guitarists for the Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 album, and then after that he kind of went his separate ways, you know, musical differences, personal differences, I don't know. He left. And sort of, it's difficult, I'll just do it this way for the time being. And he formed his new band Gamma Ray. Lead vocals on here are yeah, Ralph Sheepers, who I believe was someone like Sinner. I may be wrong, another one of these sort of like German power metal outfits. And yeah, this is the first album they released. And yeah, of course, Gamma Ray, they're still going, they still bring out albums so often, and also I think the lineup's completely different now, and of course Cory Hansen is still a kind of highly rated session player. But yeah, this is quite good. You got the look at it, isn't it? Yeah, the main feature of this album is the main track Heading for Tomorrow, a 14-minute kind of power metal workout. it back in the sleeve now. A 14-minute long power metal workout that's a bit of a, well, it is an epic, but it's kind of a bit of a kind of rare kind of classic. Other highlights on here: Heaven Can Wait, The Space Eater, Hold Your Ground, Free Time. It's all pretty good. Now I'll say that I still prefer Halloween to Gamma Ray, although that's not to derogate anything that Gamma Ray do, because they're quite good. It's just personal taste. But yeah, overall it's a pretty good album. It's kind of typical German European power metal. You know, it's kind of controlled thrash elements. As you can see, the new over British heavy metal influence in this. Overall, pretty sound. Of course, as I said, Gamma Ray are still an ongoing concern, and you know, some of their latest, I've done better albums than this. Some of their later stuff is really quite shit hot. So a band to check out. And you know, do explore Gamma Ray. Give this one a listen. Although be aware, if you listen to this, there are better Gamma Ray albums available. But anyway, Cory Hansen's Gamma Ray. 1990. This was Heading for Tomorrow. There's the last look at the outer sleeve. Okay, next up we'll have some prog rock. Here we go. This is Viewing Point by the Future Kings of England. There's the front. Whoops a daisy. That's come loose. There's the fold out there. There's the disc on the inside of the fold out. Now, Future Kings of England, band out of Ipswich in East Anglia, on the eastern coast of England there. And need a splash of water. Not water, fruit juice, sorry. And they're kind of quite sort of psychedelic hippie space prog. You can draw kind of coincident, yeah, sort of like parallels to Hawkwind, Gong, King Crimson, Man, Pink Fairies. You know, kind of. I won't go as far as Ultric Tentacles, but you're in that kind of ballpark. It's hippie, it's trippy. But like I said, it's got a kind of King Crimson-esque, maybe even Van der Graaf Generator-esque prog rock element that kind of stops it becoming fully out there in space. But it's pretty good. This album came out in 2009. Their other albums are available, although this is the only album I possess by them. So I can't really comment on how good or bad this is compared with the rest of their canon. But I do know that I quite like this. And when this came out, yeah, I played it on BCFM, but I used to do a couple of shows on a Canadian-based internet station called Radio Satan 666, where we play the devil's music, and I had a couple of shows on there, and I featured this album quite heavily on there because a lot of the listeners on that station loved it, to the extent they were telling me that they'd gone out and heard it and gone out and ordered their own copies. So yeah, it's pretty good, recommended by Radio Satan, and yeah, fine record. I'm trying to think who is it. Can't see who the personnel is on here. No, it doesn't say who plays what. There's a bit of the kind of stream of consciousness poetry, and that's about it. There's no inlay card, no track listing, no deal credits. Yeah, overall pretty good. Highlights on here include Rain Later, good. recommend, you know, those of you heard about the UK shipping forecast will recognise that. The title cut viewing point's a bit of an epic, classic cut, goes on for about 12 minutes. Superb number. The Cold Hard Truth, Seesaw. Yeah, only 6 tracks. Every single one of them is a bit of a gem. So this guys are a bit of an obscure band, but one that's worth checking out. So if you like it hippie, you like it progressive, you like it spacey, yeah, go and check out the Future Kings of England. And I can recommend this album, The Viewing Point, as a good place to start. Okay, next up we'll have something from my rare and obscure demo collection. There's the front. There's nothing on the back, it's just a very basic jewel case, a slimline jewel case. This is New Begin by Void of Fate from about 2014, I think. Yeah, don't say. All you've got on here, I think it's 2014 when I looked this up. You got, there's the disc, there's the back of a printed sheet, and there's a little note in here saying Brian Langston, who I think was the one of the band anyway, you know, when they sent me this. Yeah, a band, if I remember rightly, this was a cold submission to the station. I get them from, not so much now, most of my cold submissions now come in via email, but you know, sometimes I'll show up at the station, even now, and I'll find a little package with a CD stuck in it, and I do like that. That's a pleasant surprise. Anyway, Void of Fate, London band, formed around about 2010, 2011. Brought out this about 2012, 2013. Little 3-track EP. Maybe I've got my dates a bit wrong and a bit confuddled, I don't know. And then vanished off the face of the earth soon afterwards. Yeah, very short-lived band. But it's a little 3-track EP. They're very metal of the old school. Only 3 tracks. New Begin, Never, and Decay. They're all kind of very much kind of old school metal. It riffs, it bludgeons, it headbangs. There's tasty guitar work. There's a competent rhythm section, and makes one of those kind of what if things, because yeah, this does suffer a little bit from kind of slightly ropey production, and I always wonder what would happen if you know, sometimes bands like this got themselves into a decent studio with a producer that could bring them justice and, yeah, give a chance to develop their craft. Whatever happened to the band, I don't know. There's little web presence left of for them. Jester, the odd shadow comment here on there on a few websites. So yeah, definitely in the Where Are They Now file. Definitely going to be a real bastard to track this down if you're into collecting obscure demos. But you know, but yeah, worth the effort if you do. It's not bad. Yeah, from around about 2012, 2014, New Begin by Void of Fate. Okay, next up we'll have a bit of an old kind of favourite of mine actually. This one, and the one that's the sleeves giving up the ghost. There we go. This is Scarabus Body and Gillan band. And I think this is 1978, 77, somewhere around about there. There's the front. There's the back. and this hasn't got a release date on it. I'll say 1978, judging by where it fits into Ian Gillan's discography, etc. Those of you that don't know, Ian Gillan, ex-Deep Purple vocalist, when Purple, so he left Purple 74, around about then. Did some time with on the West End stage in Jesus Christ Superstar, the musical, and then formed the Ian Gillan Band, who were kind of jazz, progressive rock fusion outfit. Did a couple of albums, like Child in Time was one. It was a live album, and Clear Air Turbulence, all of which I've got, and all of which are, reasonable albums if you like, especially if you like your jazz fusion. Talking about that, hi Chris from Vine Orchard. I know he's a man that loves jazz fusion, and he also loves Deep Purple as well. So again, if you're watching this, Chris, hi, and I love your Lizzie video you did recently. But anyway, then this came out. Now this album's a little bit different from the other Ian Gillan Band albums. Yes, he's still got the jazz rock element, but it's kind of played down in favour of a more heavy rock sort of like approach. And this was the last album that they did before basically the Ian Gillan Band had a massive lineup change. And of the people that played on here, it's only Colin Towns and Ian Gillan himself that survived as the band transformed into the fantastic Gillan, kind of, who provided part of the soundtrack from my early 80s. But anyway, this is, you've got a fine lineup on here. The guitarist is the legendary Ray Fennick. You've got Martin Nassif on drums, and I can't remember who he was with, but I know it's a name that crops up a lot of stuff in sort of prog and jazz rock. A guy called John Gustafsson on bass. Again, don't know that much about him, but all I know is the bass player on is fine. And then you've got Ian Gillan on vocals, one of these seminal UK rock vocalists, and lined up completely by Colin Towns on keyboards, who's been part of the Ian Gillan setup for many years. This is a good album. Highlights on here for me, there's a title cut, which is one of my favourite numbers Gillan's ever involved with throughout his entire career. Scarabus, kind of references the kind of old the old film The Raven, with Vincent Price and I can't remember who the other bloke was, but the old kind of Roger Corman sort of Poe classic film, Dueling Wizards kind of thing. Mercury High, kind of great rocker, as is Mad Elaine, superb heavy rock track. There's a kind of, you've got things like Country Lights, Slags the Bitches, probably not exactly politically correct enough to play these days, but still not a bad track. Twin Exhausted, Poor Boy Hero, pre-release. It's all good stuff. Like I said, there are some kind of jazz fusion elements in here and jazz prog, but they're kind of on the way out as kind of the bands begin to take a bit of a more of a heavy rock approach. Not as well known as his Gillan stuff or his Deep Purple stuff. I do recommend that you give this album a listen if you're a fan of Ian Gillan's voice or just interesting and good British rock albums in general. Yeah, I'll say 1978, Scarabus, Ian Gillan. People will correct me if I'm wrong. Please do. I often am. But yeah, good album. I do like this one. Okay, next up we'll have a bit of punk. Here we go. This is Ambition is Critical by Mr. Zippy. There's the front. There's the back. Pop this open. There's what's behind the disc. There is the disc. Slide this out. And here's the booklet. Now, Mr. Zippy, oh, there's Mr. Zippy themselves. Now, Mr. Zippy, they're quite a local band to me. Came out of the town of Clevedon, which, if you don't know the West Country, is a kind of the nearest seaside town to Bristol, close to the Western-super-Mare. It's about 10 miles from where I'm sitting at the moment. And this lot came out in the it's like late 80s, early 90s originally. This album's from 2003, but I say they came out late 80s, early 90s, and they kind of play kind of skate punk, pop punk, bit emo, but a little bit sort of post-hardcore thrown in as well. Yeah, if you imagine kind of like classic Green Day, you know, Poison Ivy, those kind of bands, hints of Blink 182 maybe, yeah, that's the kind of thing they're coming, wicket they're off. And these guys were kind of local heroes around this way. First came across them God, must have been early 90s, yeah, mid 90s, sorry. When I was at college doing I did the old adult education, back to college kind of thing, and I was studying kind of media and journalism, etc. And I ended up as entry-rep for the City of Bristol FE College, and on Students' Union there. And I used to organise gigs occasionally. We had a punk event one day, and Mr. Zippy played, and you know, raising money for local charities as you do when you're students. And you know, and I've followed them ever since. Damn fine band, really entertaining live show. Caught up with them a few times since then, although not for a few years. Although the band apparently are still together. This album is one of their best known. It's comes from a period when they were really going places. They were they toured Japan and the Far East. They went over to the States. They were doing kind of all over Europe. These guys were at the top of their game, and you know, shame they never got the kind of bigger success they deserve, because believe me, these guys were capable of it. They were kind of, although they were kind of in your face or like skate punk, they were kind of, they were radio ready enough. They were kind of got that slightly commercial edge to actually kind of, you know, could have, if given half a chance, broken through into the mainstream. And you know, like I said, because if you're into bands like your Good Charlottes and your sort of Green Days, etc., these are of a quality to match. This album is probably their best known. It's the only one that I possess on physical format. I do have one other, I can't remember which it's called, but one other digitally, but it's the only physical format album of theirs I possess, and it's pretty good. My favourite cuts on here: Road Movie, Doing an Endo, Long Finger, Leave It Alone, Leave It Alone, I Ain't Gonna Believe. It's everything a good punk album should be. It's loud, it's raucous, it's nasty, it's offensive, but it's fun. Yeah, band is still going, although I've not seen any real activity with them for the last year. But there again, with COVID and that, there's not been a great deal of activity for many bands for the last year. But if Mr. Zippy, if you ever see this, say hi. I want to know what you're up to these days, and are you still local? Yeah, Ambition is Critical, Mr. Zippy, 2003. If you like your punk, like your pop punk, I recommend highly. And now for a complete change of gear. Here we go. Times They Are Changing by Bob Dylan. This is 1962, 63, something like that. Should tell me on here. 1964, sorry. Yeah. Now, when I've been picking the stuff out for this series, several times I've kind of, my fingers have brushed a Bob Dylan album. I say, because what I normally do, it's pretty much at random what I select. I just shut my eyes, flip as I walk past the rack, and go that one, and grab it out. And if I feel like I can talk about it for a bit, I'll drag it out. And a couple of times, I've really brought out a Bob Dylan album, and I thought, no, I can't do that. I can't do Bob Dylan. I'm a kind of hippie rocking, punky metalhead. But then, you know, I've done a few experimental ones like my Amos Milburn album and a few others that people go, oh, that's quite good. So I thought, right, let's dive in with a bullet. When I ended up giving this one a finger, I thought, right, why not? Yeah, I'll admit, hand on heart, I am a massive Bob Dylan fan. You know, I even like his vocals. You know, I know Bob Dylan's nasally kind of whine can be a bit of a get on people's breasts, but yeah, I think it's a quirky, it's an honest sound. You don't get honest sounding vocalists much these days. Everything has to be kind of sterile and auto-tuned and pitch corrected, and yeah, basic line is, if Bob Dylan started coming through today, he'll get nowhere. But he came from a time when, you know, the vocal, yeah, the expressiveness of the vocal, and you know, your ability as a songwriter and a performer outshone exactly what your voice sounded like. And yeah, I quite like his vocal approach. You know, not being a brilliant singer myself, he's always been an inspiration to me. And as a songwriter, I just love the guy's work. This is his third studio album. This is from his acoustic period before that fateful day at the Greenwich Folk Festival, where he stunned the world by plugging in an electric guitar. Yeah, it's really amazing kind of how influential Bob Dylan is, not just as a performer and a songwriter, but you know, electric folk wouldn't have existed without Bob Dylan. You know, folk rock wouldn't have existed properly without Bob Dylan. So yeah, tips to him. And I haven't got everything the guy's released, but I've got a fair smattering of his albums, and I do like this one. Most famous track on here is, of course, Times They Are Changing, one of his kind of archetypal protest songs. So I've got to show you the back, haven't I? Yeah, you got this kind of 4 outlined epitaphs, which is kind of little essays that he's written. One about Woody Guthrie, a Russian, and another one here. A Russian has 3.5 red eyes and 5 flaming antennas, drags beet-coloured ball and chain, and it wants to slip you germs into your Coke machine. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, bearing in mind this guy's a won the Nobel Prize for Literature. You know, bit of a genius if you ask me. Other tracks on this one include the Ballads of Hollis Brown, a fantastic song. Now, is that one of his, or is that I shall have to consult the yeah, all composition by Bob Dylan on that side, because he does do a few kind of old sort of like American ballads occasionally and stuff, but that was one that he wrote. And it's a shuddering, chilling tale of a guy that gets caught up in the Great Depression and the dust well, they call it the Dust Bowl here in the Midwest, and he basically is a farmer that loses everything, and he kills his 7 children, so because he would rather they die quickly at his hands than starve slowly to death. Chilling song, made famous, probably covered by a good few people, including Nazareth, who did a great version of it on their I can't remember the name of the album, but there's a really good Nazareth cover version of it around. Other hymns on here: the Lonesome Death of Hetty, Carroll, the only pause in their game when the ship comes in, Boots of Spanish Leather, North Country Blues. This is quite a dark album. A lot of Bob Dylan's early stuff is quite it's uplifting, but it's quite kind of moody as well. You know, not quite Leonard Cohen levels of darkness, but pretty dark stuff. I know Dylan's not for everyone, but you know, if you're interested in hearing some great, one of the seminal voices of music, Dylan's one of your men. And if you want to hear his acoustic folk stuff, this is one of the albums that I recommend that you check out. Yeah, 1964, Times Are A-Changin' by the great Bob Dylan. Okay, next up, we're going to stay in the 60s. I think this one was 60s, or the one that bleached into the 70s. Anyway, here we go. There's the front. There's the back that tells you what it is. This is Strange Days by the Doors. Open this up. No, it says 1975 on the credits. Now, I don't know that much about the Doors to actually sort of like say exactly when this came out. I thought this was about 68, but anyway, there's lyrics. There's the full fold out across the cover. It would have been the gatefold of the album. Yeah, I can't really tell you much about this album when it came out. Like I said, well, I have a big liking for the Doors, but I several of their albums, but they're not really a band that I've really explored the back catalogue of or the history thereof. You know, something I've got to rectify at some point. This is I've got several favourites. My favourite Doors album is probably Morrison Hotel, but this one will probably run it a good second place. The two probably best known cuts on here are Love Me Two Times, which was a fairly big single, and one that's been covered a fair number of times, including by the legendary Blue Oyster Cult that used to do a damn fine version of that one. And People Are Strange, again, another song that's kind of a Doors classic, and in the UK, although it's probably better known for the Echo and the Bunnymen's cover, as featured in the Lost Boys soundtrack album. Good stuff indeed. However, this is a pretty good album. You got your Lost Little Girl, the classic 11.5 minutes of when the music's over, the closing cut. Beautiful song, Moonlight Drive, My Eyes Have Seen You, Unhappy Girl. All good stuff. I mean, my main attraction to Morrison, to the Doors, is I like the way that Morrison's kind of vocal coming in. A bit like Bob Dylan, he's not a fantastically talented vocalist. He hasn't got a fantastic range, but he's got a delivery, and he knows, again, inspiration for me as not being a brilliantly multi-range vocalist myself. People like Jim Morrison, Dylan, Robert Calvert, I like because they can adapt their kind of limited range and hopefully bring out the best with what they can do and work within their range. You know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, Morrison was a master of that. You know, the rest of the band's pretty good as well, I've got to admit. Very laid back, tripping stuff. Love all the keyboards and the Hammond organ, etc. But yeah, Strange Days by the Doors, from whenever it came out, I don't know. There's dates all over this, so yeah. Yeah, the Doors, Strange Days, damn good album. If you haven't heard much of the Doors, check them out. This is a good album to start with. Enough said. And we reached the final vinyl. And it's a bit of Magnum. There's the front. This is Marauder from 1980. This came out, recorded December 1979. There's the front. And there's the back. And this particular pressing. Jet Records. I haven't got the inner sleeve or anything for it. Magnum's third album and first live album. Before this you got Kingdom of Madness and Magnum 2. And yeah, what to say about this one? Magnum came out of Birmingham, the mid-70s. And they kind of ended up getting caught up with the new wave of British heavy metal, even though they've had a couple of albums out beforehand. And I'm not a genre Nazi to turn around and say, oh, they released stuff before March 1979. You can't be new wave of British heavy metal. Hey, look, I was there, I was on the scene. Magnum were part of that scene. They were still an obscure club band when it broke through. Yeah, they count. But if you disagree, let me know in the comments and then go bite yourself. Yeah, band that kind of drew a lot of influence from sort of some of the American bands like Styx and Saga and Kansas, and maybe early Rush. Big kind of almost like pompous prog rock. They did two albums, like Kingdom of Madness and then Magnum 2. And then whilst touring Magnum 2, dropped in at the Marquee Club one night in December 1979, and the sessions was recorded for this. Pretty good album. It's a little bit more involved than some of their more famous later stuff. You know what I mean? Like those of you that are more familiar with albums like On Storyteller's Night, or maybe even albums like Goodbye LA, Goodnight LA, and some of their later stuff. This is going to sound a little bit more prog rock. This is going to sound a little bit more kind of Arthurian, you know, imagine that kind of prog. But overall, it's pretty good. The big elephant in the room with this is the track selection. It's all good stuff. If I Could Live Forever, The Battle, Foolish Heart, In the Beginning, Reborn, Changes, So Cold the Night, Lords of Chaos. And now those of you that are familiar with Magnum are saying, oh, that's not a typical early Magnum set. There's some key songs missing. Where's Kingdom of Madness? Where's All of My Life? Where's The Great Adventure? Well, around about the same time as this came out, one of your single boxes back there, could be arse dragging it out, but they brought out a double 7-inch single pack which contained those three said missing tracks and more. So basically, if you want to reconstruct the entire gig, you need this album and you need the double pack 7-inch, which also I think came out as a 12-inch, so you could slip it in the sleeve if you wanted. Maybe it's a cynical marketing ploy from Jet Records, but who cares? It does mean that they're not having to cram too much music onto the album, thus making it kind of you only really get about 25 minutes aside on vinyl before it starts getting muffled. And it also means that kind of the sound quality can be better. You've got extra things to look at and play and put in your collection. Yeah, it's pretty damn well played. This is the early Magnum lineup with Colin Lowe on bass, Richard Bailey on keyboards. Also play flute, Kevin Gorin on drums. All of which will soon to depart over the next couple of albums, to be replaced by people like Mark Stanway and John Simpson and those kind of things. Although the ever-present duo of Tony Clarkin on guitar and Bob Catley on vocals are here, both of which do fine performances. Both of which are kind of, I've seen Magnum live more times than I care to remember, and you know, Magnum have never disappointed me. This album is not a disappointment at all. You know, it just makes me wish that I could have gone. I didn't see Magnum until about 1985. Wish I could have gone back and seen their really proggy days, but hey, never to be. But anyway, Magnum's Marauder, 1980 live album. If you're collecting Magnum, add it to your collection. And if you're collecting live albums, add it to your collection. Full stop. Yeah, good stuff indeed. So that's it for this week. As I said, I'm unfortunately owing to the algorithms here on YouTube and also on Facebook, I can't really kind of needle drop tracks or anything like that. But I am trying to play some of the tracks off the albums that I'm featuring on here on the radio shows, and of course there's always Google. Or other search engines are available should you want to look them up and check out any of these acts yourselves if you haven't heard them. So that's it. Until next week, peeps. Comments and likes and that kind of thing's really handy. Just kind of helps spread the word. I'm not out to make money, but just to kind of have a chat with more people about music. And you know, so the comments are going to be down there on YouTube, over there on Facebook. And yeah, any feedback, you know, please feel free. Let's start a discussion. So until next week, peeps, I'm out of here. Bye.